Have you ever had that experience where your life looks successful, but internally something feels off? Maybe you have the career, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but internally you feel this inner tension. A lot of times people feel that as anxiety and they immediately try to fix it. They work harder, they try to override it. But what if that anxiety isn't something to actually fix? What if it's actually an intelligence? Oftentimes that intelligence is pointing to incongruence or where there is misalignment, where you are not aligned with who you truly are. This discovery actually shifted everything for me, and it's what I want to unpack today. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Sarah Bell, medicine woman, spiritual mentor, and ceremonialist, and I help sensitive souls and high capacity women to master your energy, awaken your intuition and soul gifts, and anchor more light in the world. For me, I spent a lot of time in corporate. Big part of my career was in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment of corporate, and on paper, I looked successful, but internally, my experience was very different. I've always been a highly sensitive person and a mystical soul. And in the corporate environment, it rewarded constant output, constant achievement, constant production, and hitting revenue targets, meeting investor expectations, all of these things. And at the beginning, I was very much into it. I was very much climbing the corporate ladder into the just the output and caught up in the program. But as I followed that path, there started to be more and more internal dissonance or friction. And I was waking up to the truth of my own being. As a mystical soul, I was very interested in exploring the natures of consciousness in the unseen realm. I always had a lot of curiosity. And so I started to invest in myself in that way. Around 2012 was when my soul was really stirring, and I started to explore different healing modalities. And all of this initially was to really find solutions for my anxiety and for my stress, because I had a lot of it. As a highly sensitive soul in a high pressure environment that rewards high performance, there is a lot that you are digesting, not to mention all the people energy. Highly sensitive souls in a corporate environment can really track dishonesty and incongruence and inauthenticity. And there's a lot of false narratives and distortions that you're up against every single day. In fact, it's a little nauseating. And for me, I was tracking all of that. I felt the incongruence of teams that were supposed to be working together, but really just talking about each other behind each other's backs. Or I really felt the pressure of being a leader and having to spin a narrative to the company and to the employees that I actually didn't agree with internally. And so there's a lot of dissonance that creates a real breakdown inside. You can feel that you are not in alignment with the distortions of an organization. And that was exactly what was happening for me. And so I had a lot of inner questions, a lot of inner friction. And I felt the calling as I was pursuing these healing modalities. I felt the calling to assist humanity, to be of service in the world in a way that was not my corporate role. But I also felt very trapped and very caged, because I had created this certain income that my life was built around. And if that income went away, everything would collapse, which created even more anxiety because I felt caged. I felt like there was no way out. And so at the time, I was trying to understand my sensitivity. I was trying to understand my soul purpose. I was trying to understand my anxiety. And here is the thing. So I went on pilgrimages. I was studying with a spiritual mentor. Her home was an ashram. And I was, deep in teachings from the ancient Vedic texts. I can go on and on about all the things that I was doing while in my corporate job, but I want to really distill this down into what I learned, because that's ultimately what's going to be most valuable to you. But just to sort of paint the picture for you, I was on parallel paths. One path was very much this holistic lifestyle, conscious living, investing in myself, and doing all the spiritual things. And on that path, I was uncovering parts of my true self. I was getting to know the truth of my being. I was moving into alignment with my intuition, and I was starting to hear the guidance of my higher self. And on that other parallel track was the company that I was working for, moving further and further into what felt like greed. And so the gap was just widening and widening and widening, to the point that it was like my soul was so loud that I couldn't ignore it. It felt like my soul was like dying inside every time I was reporting into the office, which sounds a little bit dramatic, but when you're in it and you feel it. And so all of this, there's a key point that I want to share here, and that is what I was calling anxiety was actually intelligence. What I was calling anxiety was actually intelligence. It was my own biology showing me where I was overriding higher guidance, higher wisdom, what my soul knew. And what I have found is that oftentimes, especially highly sensitive people, we feel these things early on. We start to feel the incongruence. We feel the erosion of our sense of self or our intuition or the truth of our being. We feel all of that before we can really name it, before we can really see it clearly, what's actually happening. Our systems, our nervous systems pick up on this incongruence long before our minds understand it. And most of us, we override that intelligence for years. For me, it took me 7 years of overriding that intelligence, feeling it, sensing it, coming into relationship with it, and then ignoring it in exchange for security, in exchange for that paycheck that created the stability that I really needed while I figured it all out. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of being human. And that's one of the things I really want to share in this message, is that the spiritual awakening process is just the beginning. It's just when your soul starts to stir and it starts to guide you into down these different rabbit holes of exploring yourself, exploring what is creating that incongruence, and exploring what is that your nervous system is feeling. Why do I have all of this anxiety? Am I not meant for this organization or this world? Like, what is my soul actually meant for? What is my purpose? What am I really good at? What did I come here to do? That all takes time to unravel. And I think a lot of times we see, marketing messages and advertisements about starting a business or being an entrepreneur, and it sort of glorifies these other potential paths. And we feel like we're intelligent, capable beings where we should just be able to create a business plan, leave our 9 to 5 and go and replace that revenue and just sail off into the sunset. And it really doesn't happen that way. And so it takes time. And actually having a secure paycheck is really helpful when you're in that process of working it out, figuring it out, investing in self. And one of the very best things you can do is actually invest in yourself. Invest in that time and space to understand the nature of your soul, because you came here with a unique blueprint. You came here with unique soul gifts and a soul mission, things that you care about. If you think about your interests and what lights you up, or what kind of, they don't even have to be defined. They can just be inklings. They can be inklings or curiosities, things that are like calling to you. But what you need to realize is that not everybody has that. Whatever it is that's speaking to you, combined with all of your life experience and all of the wisdom that you've accumulated, that is so unique to you. And I think it's really important to recognize that the things that come into your sphere of consciousness are arriving to you for you. And it's only when you open with curiosity and turn toward it that the path will start to unfold and unravel. And so instead of having to have the plan and have all the steps and know how it's going to work, because we never will, the very best thing that you can do is to let the anxiety be intelligence and let the curiosity carry you forward into the next step. It's really about following the curiosity and letting the curiosity take you places, take you into deeper explorations of your soul, into deeper quests of mastery, and even the accumulation of new knowledge or new skills or certifications that start to build this greater value of how you might serve, how you might move forward on your path. And so having to have it figured out is not the path. It's really about attunement and deep listening and following the inner wisdom and having the curiosity to take the next step, not having to have this, huge roadmap ahead, because rarely do we actually have it. The roadmap is actually turning inward. The roadmap is actually listening and learning how to attune to your intuition and your higher guidance and your higher self, and to get to know how your body actually responds to shifting energy, to things that create destabilization. Actually building the skills to stabilize your energy field is one of the single greatest skills to paving the way forward. And so all of that, I went through that whole process, and it took me 7 years. And everything that I was learning, everything that I was digesting, it was all pointing to, like, I think, one core thing, and it's energetic mastery. It's energetic self mastery. It's knowing the self, knowing how you're wired, how you're patterned, how your nervous system works, what makes it dysregulated, how to come back to regulation and coherence, how to get in touch with your intuition and your higher self, how to determine the difference between the ego mind and your higher intuitive wisdom, how to know how to take calculated risks that your system can hold, but that are in fact risks that could take you into higher levels of alignment, and how to be able to calculate each step along the way. That's unique for every person. But when you know yourself, when you understand your nervous system patterning, when you understand your intuition and how it speaks to you, that is ultimately your greatest guide. Your greatest guide is you. And so the path through, the pathway to higher alignment ultimately requires the path inward, to know yourself, to awaken to deeper parts of your own inner wisdom, your own soul blueprint. And that ultimately guides you into sovereignty, true energetic sovereignty, where you can start to discern the truth from within your being from the distortions that you experience in the everyday world. There's a lot of distortion that's coming into view right now, and a lot of people are having to navigate that level of discernment of what's true and what's false and what do I actually believe. We've never been in such a pivotal time to bring forward truth, and we need more people being able to anchor into that space of coherence within themselves, into that connection to higher wisdom and intuition in a grounded, regulated way, so that they can be the stewards of truth. And that starts in your own individual life. It starts with how you're orienting. It starts with the environments that you're in and what you tolerate and what you don't, where you abandon yourself versus where you honor yourself. There's a whole lot of self-abandoning that I did in my corporate journey, but that was part of the process. That was part of my growth and part of my transformation. And it still is, because that's like a continual arc of personal evolution that we all continue to refine. It's part of that energetic mastery. And so all of this, if this is making sense to you, all of this is really the work that I take you through in my self-mastery teachings, which are inside Anchor the Light Collective, which is my membership and spiritual home for cultivating luminous humans. All of this is the work, right? And I think it's really important to understand that spiritual awakening is just the beginning. It's not about spiritual awakening. It's actually about stabilization. And that initial spiritual awakening and all of this friction that I've been talking about, this inner dissonance that's showing you the misalignment, that is an initiation. It's an initiation into you prioritizing yourself, knowing yourself and mastering yourself. And it really is the greatest journey that we go on. It's the greatest reward to be able to make those refinements and to start to co-create our reality and co-create a life that we love, that feels alignment and that feels true. That's the greatest gift, to live your truth, to live aligned because your soul feels free in that expression. And so if that is something you are seeking, I would love to invite you to join me inside Anchor the Light Collective. It is that membership home, that spiritual home, and it really is designed to help you anchor into a devotional rhythm, a spiritual practice, a process of returning to yourself, prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your inner spirit, so that you can move into higher soul alignment. And inside the collective, you can choose sort of your, how you want to utilize all the resources in a way that makes sense for you. There's a lot in there. And so you can choose if you want to do a full immersion into the self-mastery teachings, which are transformative. You can go deep into that work inside the collective and then join me in monthly ceremonies and community gatherings and crystalline field activations where we actually move into service for the planetary evolution and doing energetic grid work of the planet. And so there's a whole host of ways that you can engage and go deeper. And all of that guides you into higher alignment with your truth and your soul path. So that is everything that I wanted to share with you today. Sometimes it's not about having it figured out, and sometimes we just need someone to tell us that it's okay, that we're working it out and we're figuring it out. But the single greatest thing is your own curiosity, continuing to follow it and continuing to come back to yourself, to prioritize yourself, and to discover ultimately that higher guidance and higher wisdom that is there for you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today, drop me a comment below and I will see you in the next video.